lights are so bright. Hello, and welcome back to Let's Talk About It. My name is Danny. I'm joined with Zenny, Austin, and Nick, and we're here to try and answer the question, what will it take to get Gen Z to the polls? According to a Business Insider article, 80% of Gen Z college students say they plan on already voting. But what about the other 20% of those college kids? And what about the apathetic 18-year-old high schooler that doesn't really want to vote? How do we get them to the polls? So I'll turn to you guys to ask that question.
I think the big key, well, they all seem to be very interested in Bernie. So I think if Bernie gets the nomination for the Democrats, that will drive a lot of Gen Zers to the poll. I think the further question beyond that is if Bernie doesn't win the nomination, will they still come out and vote?
Right. I think if you look at it historically, the candidates that have gotten the young vote are the ones that had movements attached to them, like Barack Obama, for example, Ronald Reagan, even guys like Ron Paul. They all had movements that were uprooting the establishment at that time that got young people to vote for him. If you look at the candidates now, the only one that's like that is Bernie. So, you know, as a Gen Z member myself, as a Zoomer, since I've been politically conscious, people in my generation have seen, you know, friends and family die in two senseless and unnecessary wars. We've seen Citizens United and the rise of super PACs put money and corruption into elections. You've seen people like Mitch McConnell continually uproot our democracy. But worst of all, we've seen the older generations just sit there and let it happen. And I think that's what young people are sick of. And it's going to take people like Sanders to just really take it to the establishment to get people to vote, because nobody wants to go vote for someone that's been in office for 30 years and hasn't really helped change anything, like Biden or a Bloomberg.
I think what will get a lot of people to come out and vote this time is if there's more information that's accessible. Like 59% of Gen Zers get their information from Instagram. So maybe if there are more politicians that are active on social media, we could see that more people are inclined to come out and vote.
Totally, which I think could be a detrimental thing if everybody gets their news from social media. But right now we'll take it to the audience with a question.
Yes, thank you so much. So we have a question, your first name and your question.
My name is Joseph, and rather than a question, it's more of a comment or suggestion on how we can get younger voters to the polls. In my opinion, it's important to look at what is the main things that are stopping people from voting, which in my opinion is two things. One, it's the knowledge of it. I hear a lot of people say, oh, I didn't vote because I want to be more informed before, like I want to make more of an informed decision. And in college, we're discussing politics heavily throughout different classes, throughout with our peers and everything. And one way we can help that is to enhance that and do that in high school as well. So focus teaching these kids a lot more, so by the time they turn 18, they're ready to vote. It makes it a lot easier for them. And another way that it could be beneficial too is if another way to get more voters out there at a younger age is I honestly forgot the second one that I was going to.
All right. Well, I agree with you. Get out correct information to them. But as Zenny brought up, 59% of Gen Zers get all of their political news from social media, Instagram being the biggest one, which I think is a shocker to me. So how do we make sure that the information that they're getting is the correct information?
I mean, that's the thing about social media is how often do you see news that ends up being not true on social media? It happens all the time. So that responsibility, I think, is more on the shoulders of the news media, especially like Fox News, for example, CNN, that is constantly feeding biased and fake information to the public. So I think it's really, you know, we're sitting here at a table on TV, like it's our jobs to get the correct messaging out there and inform the young people.
Yeah, and I think the polarizing nature of this election in general will drive Gen Zers to the polls. It's just a question of how many, because they're still becoming of age to vote, you know, as we speak. You know, more and more are turning 18, so it's really hard to quantify how many are actually going to come out, because none of them have voted. Some of them haven't voted before. I guess just beyond that, it will be interesting to see if they will actually be able to sway the election. Bernie is very polarizing with the moderates, both on the Democrats and Republicans, so if he wins the nomination, will there be enough Gen Zers to come out that will actually cause Bernie to win the election.
And you bring up a good point there because in the primaries so far, young people are turning out and they're voting for Bernie. 2/3 of the young, I think it was 18 to 29 demographic voted for Bernie in Nevada. If he doesn't win the nomination, are people really going to come out and vote for Joe Biden if he's the presumptive nominee? I mean, if we look at what's been happening the last few days with people like Pete dropping out, Klobuchar dropping out, and Beto they're all endorsing Joe Biden, and you see really just the political machine is rallying around one person. I think that's going to turn off young voters, especially in the general.
Yeah, and there was a statistic that showed on a Business Insider that said like if Gen Zers don't vote in this election, it basically means that they will never vote again. They will likely never vote, and they're just okay with Trump being president again.
I mean, all generations from the beginning, they vote more as they get older, so it's tough to say. They might end up voting as they get older, but I think that's all we have time for today. That's it for Let's Talk About It.